Hillary Clinton went on ABC News Australia and continued her excuse-making tour to blame everybody but herself for why she lost the 2016 election to a reality star clown. Let's see what she's saying now.
One study that just came out asked, why people who had voted for Obama one or two times did not vote for me, did not vote, or might have voted for third party or even for Trump. And they found there were several factors. There were pieces of information that were delivered not consistently through what we call the mainstream media, but online, that were particularly influential. Like, for example, I was dying. I was always dying in this campaign. And there were all kinds of, presentations that looked like a real news desk. Where it looked like, the man sitting, behind the desk was giving you the news. And they would say things like, there's new information coming out about Hillary Clinton's health. She, may have Parkinson's or some other chronic disease. And if that's delivered to you over and over again, you begin to believe it. A second one was that somehow I, along with Barack Obama, was providing ISIS with military weapons. Now, this was never really explained. It was just asserted. And there were even these phony stories saying that I was one of the founders of the Islamic State, which, go figure. I mean, how does anybody even think of this, let alone believe it? Or my personal favorite, that Pope Francis endorsed Donald Trump. And if you'd been a high user of the news, a high consumer of the news, you knew that wasn't true. But if you weren't, and it was being presented to you, and it was being presented like, in a really clever, professional-looking way. Oh, breaking news. Pope Francis has endorsed Donald Trump. Let us go to our correspondent in Rome. And you've got then somebody standing in front of the Vatican picture looking like he's in Rome. And he's saying, unprecedented, the Pope has endorsed Donald Trump. I mean, this apparently influenced people.
Let me show you the reality of the situation. Fake news. Wide reach, but little impact, study suggests. So she loves... Come on, who can't see what's happening here? She's been non-stop deflecting and obfuscating and acting like it's not her fault. Listen, the thing about this one that pissed me off more than the other ones is she said, people who voted for Obama twice who didn't end up voting for me or stayed home or voted for Trump, let me explain why they didn't, do the right thing, really is what she's hinting at, which is vote for me. And then she goes on to provide a litany of bullshit reasons that are not, there's no empirical evidence to point out what she's referring to. How many people said the reason I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton is her health? I never heard anybody say the specific reason I'm not voting for her is her health. Listen, I don't believe that that's a legitimate reason to be against her. But I also know it's a matter of fact. It's just true that she collapsed at the 9/11 event. That was a big story because she was going to walk to get into the car and she fucking collapsed. Now, again, I'm not saying that should then make you turn around and vote for somebody who's bragging about how he's pro-torture on the campaign trail like Donald Trump. It shouldn't make you have that response. But, and I don't think it's a legitimate issue in that it's like, well, then she won't be able to handle it if she does become president physically. But she tries to act like it's 100% fake news, as if that didn't actually happen, her collapsing at the 9/11 event. That did happen. So why are you, see, that's the thing. She never just tells the truth. Then she brings up how, it's ridiculous that the idea that me and Obama were providing ISIS weapons. Well, yes, that's a little misstated. You weren't providing ISIS weapons, but you damn sure were providing jihadists weapons in Syria. Now, you weren't providing them weapons because they're jihadists, But the idea was, hey, they're nominally the rebels who are against Assad. Assad is aligned with Russia, so they're our enemy in the region, and there's a geopolitical strategy and advantage to backing these people. That's why we're going to do it. By the same token, in Saudi Arabia, we arm Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia arms Al-Qaeda on the ground in Yemen to fight the Shia Houthi rebels. That happens. That's a real thing. So this like smug dismissal, like, but please, the idea that the United States of America would team up with jihadists? Huh, why, I never. No, yes, that's exactly what, that goes all the way back to Reagan. That's a stated policy under the Reagan administration. When we armed the Mujahideen in Afghanistan because they were fighting the Soviet Union at the time. And then, of course, the Mujahideen later became the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. There were articles about Osama bin Laden, glowing articles written in The Independent, a UK publication, about how Osama bin Laden is a freedom fighter. The fucking Taliban met with Ronald Reagan in the goddamn White House. That was the Mujahideen. So this idea of like, there are people who think me and Obama were backing jihadists. How ridiculous. That's what the most educated people were saying, not the least educated people. Now, I get it. There are some people on the right who are not nuanced about this and don't understand what's actually happening, and they genuinely believe that, like, Obama and Hillary founded ISIS, and that's a preposterous notion. But there is a grain of truth in the idea that you guys armed jihadists because you did. Not because you like jihadists, but because there was an alliance there. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Your enemy is Russia and Assad. Your enemy is the Shia Houthis in Yemen. So that's what you did. And then she says Pope Francis endorsed Trump, and this is why people ended up voting for Trump. The fake news story. Dude, you have no idea how many people thought, I was on the fence, and then the old man in the fucking dress who talks to zombie Jewish carpenters said he's for the other guy, so I'm for the other guy now. You don't know that. See, she treats you like you're incapable of being able to think logically. And here's my take. If somebody was a 2-time Obama voter and then they voted for nobody, or they voted for Jill Stein, or they voted for Trump, you can agree or disagree with their decision. But if they were a 2-time Obama voter and then they made the decision to vote a different way or not vote at all, they're not complete and utter idiots. So, and that's the part that really pissed me off about this. I wasn't going to cover this, but then the fact that she specifically referenced the 2-time Obama voters and why they didn't vote for her. That's the exact group of people who didn't vote for Hillary that I would say are not swayed by the fake news. That those are the people who usually, all the evidence I've seen when you talk to those 2-time Obama voters, Van Jones went and spoke to them on his CNN show. I think it was the first episode of his CNN show. And those people were like, yeah, I used to have a job. Now I don't have a job because I got fucking outsourced. Trump acted like he was anti-establishment and like he was going to keep our jobs here, so that's why I voted for him. So the exact people who actually either didn't vote or voted for Jill Stein or voted for Trump, who were 2 times Obama voters, who were the most rational of all the people, those are the ones she's saying were swayed by fake news. No, Hillary, those are the people who were the most rational and thought through the most why they didn't vote for you. So she's making a fundamentally ridiculous claim here. Like, the idea is, well, obviously if you didn't vote for me, you were duped. Because, it's impossible to rationally look at her record and disagree. It's impossible to look at the fact that she voted for the Iraq War, a war crime, voted for the Patriot Act, which ripped up the Constitution, was in favor of NAFTA, was in favor of Wall Street deregulation. It's impossible to look at those things and go, I disagree with that and I don't trust you. Obviously, you were duped by some nefarious outside force like fake news if you voted against me and you voted for Obama twice. No, those are the people who actually thought through their decision the most. There are some people who are silly people who, are irrational from the jump. They exist. And they were probably going to vote for Trump no matter what. Yeah, that's fine. Those people exist. But to try to make the case that the 2-time Obama voters who very specifically have told, and polls have shown this, hey, we support populist Democrats over Republicans, the ones who had the most the most thoughtful answers as to why they didn't vote for you, those are the ones she's trying to act are the most brainless. And trying to say like, oh, the reason they didn't vote for me is because a fake news story that said the Pope endorsed Trump. Who the fuck cares who the Pope endorsed? We know that's a fake news story. At least now we do. But my guess is that news story didn't sway many people now, did it? But she's making up that it did because it makes her feel better. So, add to the list of shit that she blames. But blame James Comey, blame the FBI, blame Vladimir Putin, blame Gary Johnson, blame Jill Stein, blame anything and everything but myself. No, the problem is you. You're corrupt, you're a liar, and you represent a neoliberal corporatist ideology that has ruined lives. If you really wanted to win, you could have been super populist, and you would have been lying. Of course you would have been lying, but it might have actually worked if you spoke about Medicare for all and free college and a living wage and ending the wars. It may have come across as disingenuous, but that message resonates a lot more. And my guess is you would have been able to pick up an extra 80,000, 100,000 votes in the Rust Belt, and you would have won. So look in the mirror. It's your fault. Also, you did the Pied Piper strategy. You propped up Donald Trump because you thought he'd be easiest to beat, and then he beat you. So if anybody, you should really be blaming the DNC and yourself. You rigged the primary against the guy who could have beat Trump. And now you're blaming everybody but yourself and the DNC for Trump. It's so transparent. Anybody that knows exactly what happened sees how this is a pathetic, sad attempt to save a legacy that never was good in the first place.